George Washington was the first president of the United States, serving 2 terms from 1789 to 1797. During his presidency, he played a key role in establishing many of the customs and traditions that have shaped the presidency and the federal government of the United States. Washington was born in Virginia in 1732 and became a successful plantation owner and surveyor before the American Revolutionary War. He served as a general in the Continental Army during the war and was instrumental in the American victory over Great Britain. After the war, he was chosen to preside over the Constitutional Convention, which produced the United States Constitution in 1787 and ratified in 1788. Washington was elected as the first president of the United States in 1789, and he took office on April 30, 1789. During his presidency, he faced many challenges, including the task of establishing the new federal government, managing relations with foreign powers, and dealing with domestic issues. In terms of foreign policy, Washington sought to maintain good relations with foreign powers and to avoid entangling alliances with other countries. A few examples of his foreign policy efforts include the proclamation of neutrality. In 1793, the United States was faced with the challenge of maintaining good relations with both Great Britain and France, who were at war with each other. In order to avoid being drawn into the conflict, Washington issued a proclamation of neutrality, declaring that the United States would not take sides in the war. This decision was not without controversy, and it led to some tension with both Great Britain and France. But it ultimately helped to preserve the neutrality and independence of the United States. Another foreign policy was the Treaty of Amity and Commerce with Great Britain. In 1794, Washington signed the Treaty of Amity and Commerce with Great Britain, which established friendly relations between the two countries and established a framework for commercial trade. This treaty helped to resolve the outstanding issues from the American Revolutionary War and established a strong relationship between the United States and Great Britain for many years. George Washington also signed Jay's Treaty with Great Britain in 1795, which aimed to resolve a number of disputes related to trade and the settlement of pre-revolutionary debts. The treaty was controversial and was not well received by many Americans, but it helped to maintain good relations between the two countries, and it helped to avoid a war between the two nations. In 1795, Washington also signed Pinckney's Treaty with Spain, which established the southern border of the United States and granted American merchants the right to trade on the Mississippi River. This treaty helped to resolve some of the outstanding issues between the United States and Spain, and it helped to strengthen relations between the two countries. In addition to these foreign policy efforts, Washington also had to deal with a number of domestic issues during his presidency. One of the major challenges Washington faced was the Whiskey Rebellion, which was a tax protest that took place in western Pennsylvania in 1794. The protest was sparked by a new excise tax on whiskey, which was a major source of revenue for farmers in the region. The tax was unpopular, and many farmers refused to pay it. Washington responded to the rebellion by leading a military force to quell the uprising and uphold the rule of law. He issued a proclamation calling for the rebels to lay down their arms and return to their homes, and he ordered federal troops to the area to restore order. The rebellion was ultimately put down, and Washington was praised for his strong leadership in maintaining order and upholding the authority of the federal government. Another major accomplishment of Washington's presidency was the creation of a national bank. The United States was heavily in debt from the American Revolutionary War, and Washington recognized the need for a stable financial system to help manage the government's finances and its debts. He proposed the creation of a national bank, which would be chartered by the federal government and would have the authority to issue currency and provide loans to the government. The bank was established in 1791, and it played a key role in the financial stability of the United States. Washington also faced challenges in his dealings with Native Americans. The United States was expanding westward, and Washington oversaw the signing of a number of treaties with Native American tribes. These treaties often favored the United States at the expense of Native American interests, and Washington faced criticism for his handling of Native American affairs. Despite these challenges, Washington worked to maintain peaceful relations with Native American tribes and sought to establish a mutually beneficial relationship between the U.S. and Native Americans. Another significant issue was the issue of slavery. Washington owned slaves himself and struggled with the moral implications of the institution. However, he also recognized that slavery was deeply ingrained in the economy and society of the United States. During his presidency, Washington did not take any significant steps to address the issue of slavery. In fact, he signed the Fugitive Slave Act of 1793, which required the return of runaway slaves to their owners and imposed heavy fines on those who aided them. He also continued to own and profit from the labor of slaves on his plantation, Mount Vernon. However, Washington also expressed some ambivalence about slavery. In a letter to Robert Morris in 1786, he wrote, "There is not a man living who wishes more sincerely than I do to see a plan adopted for the abolition of its slavery. In his will, he directed that his own slaves be freed upon the death of his wife, Martha." It is clear that Washington struggled with the moral implications of slavery and recognized that it was a complex and controversial issue. However, he ultimately did not take any significant action to address it during his presidency. Despite these challenges, Washington's presidency was generally successful. He is remembered as a strong and effective leader who helped to establish the foundations of the United States government and to set the nation on a course for future growth and prosperity. After serving 2 terms, Washington retired from public life and returned to his plantation in Virginia, where he died in 1790.